Okay, trying something a little bit different this time. Seems like everyone is a little bit different, I suppose. This one is the Shveshnikov Variation of the Sicilian, and this is in 2007 between Shirov2007. And I suppose I should flip the board. Nope, that's exactly where I need to be. I'm putting it by Black's point of view because, in general, the Sicilian is the result of Black's response to e4. So, if you normally see this e4, the response is always c5, and then you know you're in the Sicilian. Now there's some lines that are favorable for white, as in a response to the Sicilian in general from Black. One of those is the Alapin, which is that c3 option. But we're not going to do that here. I'm going from Black so that we can try a variation that's supposed to be fairly strong for Black. As I said, this Svechnikov. So C5 is the response. And at 3, this is a typical response for most Sicilian systems, is that knight at 3. And then that's usually the response for Black as a result. It's generally looking at these two squares, which is in defense of that. Trying to Black's going to try to an asymmetrical attack on the center. White is going to go ahead and say, go ahead and take it. We'll see what we can do. I've got the queen up here, and I've got the knight up here to protect it. So the most you could do is take with these two at the moment. So I'll go ahead and go with the trade if you want. Regardless, as you can see, it's generally taken in this line, accepted, I guess you'd say, because even though white is going to take that pawn and remain in the center, at least that won't be a pawn that the white will have in the center. So, and that's generally taken. You notice that there's no exchange here. There's no real value at this point for the knight to take it. If the white knight were to take it, then it'd just be taken from a pawn anyway, so it's not a big deal. And by developing the knight here on f6, you can have a direct attack on the pawn. So white in general, seeing the attack, will generally have to respond either by backing it up or developing itself as well. So, which is what they do, protecting the pawn with the knight to c3 option. So this is all normal. e5 attacking that knight, and then to rescue itself from that pawn and put itself in an aggressive position, protected by its other knight, of course. And then you're backing up the pawn. Now, that is the bishop g5 is normal for many lines of the Sicilian, and this is I think they call it tabia. The tabia for the bishop g5, and there are many variations that derive from this, and it's out of this that the Svechnikov is actually created. So attacking the knight, it'll move, progressing the pawn, essentially leaving that square unavailable for either knight. Its advancement itself doesn't do it. The pawn at a6 does, but by moving the pawn out to b5, it allows more breathing room for black and more space for black in the center in general. returning back at an advanced post. This is often, even though the pawn at e4 is weak, right here, because there's nothing backing up currently. Even though the pawn is weak, it only takes a single move to strengthen it, either through bringing the bishop over, or to here, or bring the pawn up to here. So that's not a big deal. And as an advanced post, it's still protected by the queen here, as you see. So, and responses 7. This allows the knight no longer to be pinned, and allows a direct threat from the bishop should it be when the knight is removed, which should be very shortly. Takes, and that's because they knew the knight was going to be gone, and rather take the knight directly rather than have to worry about the bishop. So that's normal. C4, protecting, threatening. Movement on the right side, you'll see on the A and B file, protection from the knight for this pawn and this pawn, and the knight here is protecting that pawn. Queen comes over. This could mean several different things. It could mean that white wants to move the bishop over here so they can then take some kind of attack line here or here. It's uncertain yet. Depends on his studies. It could mean that there's a direct threat, or at least an implied threat, along that file. This is basically threatening the square here. Yep. I'm guessing that this will not be a sacrifice, so he pushes the pawn up. Yep, makes sense. He'll take with the pawn, and he'll take with that. Yep. I guess technically he could have taken with the bishop, but in this way he's advancing the queen. The queen, you'll see very immediately here, the two of these are lined up at the crucial D2 square. So technically at this point, if all things were to remain the same as they are on this board, which of course they won't because white has yet to play, the next move from black would be mate. So black's going to have to fight against that directly. So taking the bishop, taking the rook. So obviously there's no direct mate attack at this point. There is a possible threat of the knight coming to here, and you'd be under attack here, so I don't think you're going anywhere. But that would be threatening. Pinning the rook and king. Obviously the king will have to move. Nothing can take the knight, so the rook is gone here. So we move back. King moves, rook gone. And there's nothing directly attacking that knight now, so it's not necessary for it to scramble out of there at the moment. So white is probably going to do a developing move. I mean, black is going to yes, white will do a developing move next time, unless it's under threat, which at this point it is from the bishop. Moving out. Takes. Now, let's see how that was enabled. If you look back a couple moves here, you'll see that the rook is out here, but the bishop's in the way. Would like to take that, and the only way to do that is get the bishop out of the way, and it's a very handy way to essentially accomplish two things very handily. One, put the queen under threat, knowing that she's going to move, so knowing there's no direct danger to the queen, but forcing black to concentrate elsewhere while freeing up the rook at h8, which is what happens, and that's why he's able to take that. Not a fair exchange if you accept the notion that a rook is worth 5 and the knight is worth 3, 3¼ but under the circumstances, when you're forked that way, there's not many choices. Queen comes down, threatening the knight, protecting, advancing the pawn to threaten the black pawn. Takes. No choice there. Had to take. Otherwise, the queen could have devastated. Had a devastating attack at that moment. Bringing the bishop across. This is a potential mate opportunity. Excuse me. Certainly a strong attack. Yes, I didn't see that. So there's your check. King has no choice. He'll have to move out. Of course, he's going to move towards the rook, so if the queen tries to, well, there would be no trying. The queen has no choice and cannot go down to the 8th row. So it takes that as expected, leaving the pawn open, and that was the point. Black brought the knight up there, knowing that White's knight would have to take it, but also knowing that it could not advance the pawn at c5 without with the white bishop in the way. So accepting that exchange so they could free space for itself. So that was kind of expected, and I did not expect that. I didn't think the queen would do that, because all the king's going to do is move up on top of the rook, so the rook's attacking the queen. Coordination is crucial here. I think, yes. Check the threat. Has to move. I think. I was hoping to bring that, coax the bishop out of the way, and accepting the loss of the pawn to remove the bishop from protecting the queen, but no takers there. Accepting an exchange possible. There's a check. Oh, he's going to go after that rook, it looks like. No, not yet. Check. Well, that wasn't a big loss. Didn't expect to keep that anyway. That is a check. Check. Okay. Interesting. That would be check. Check. Oh, because he's accepting the exchange. That's why. Check. Check. What's going to happen? Ooh, that's a bad position. It's a check. Yeah. That's basically game over. Yeah. There's really nothing that the king can do. He can move one more down, but the jig, as they say, is pretty much up. The queen can't maneuver into a position that's going to hurt the king, and with the bishop there in front of it, and try as it might, and yet the queen is in a good position against the king. The white rook could take that, but would be taken, and then the next move would be a check, and eventually there'd be no choice. The king would have to move down that A file, and within a couple moves, we'll be able to take the pawn at b4, and that would be mate anyway. So interesting. So anyway, let's try with this Shveshnikov. It's the first time I've seen this game when looking at it the same time you are. So a couple interesting things to look at. There'll be similar patterns in other Sveshnikovs, and I'll be taking a look at those too.